Welcome back to another video, and this is my collective makeup review for the month of April. Welcome back, and we are going to be doing my April collective makeup review, so I had gathered enough makeup products for a review video. If you're into eyeshadow palette reviews, I do them separately, so on the review playlist that you can find this video on, I do have a pretty recent for eyeshadow palette collective review video, so if you want to see some of the palettes that I've been trying out recently, you can check that out. And also I have been doing a sort of shop my stash reviewing some older eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection. I have the first video also on my review playlist, and I think I'm actually going to be filming the second one pretty soon, so we are going to be seeing some more like older palette reviews and how I feel about them now that it's been some while that they have been out. But about the collective makeup review, I have now done for some time that I have divided this into categories. So we have the don't buy category, which means that products that I would absolutely not recommend. Then the meh category, I was like, products that kind of work, but maybe still not my favorite. Then we have the good category, and actually in the good category we have the most of the products. It was actually a pretty, what I would say, decent month in terms of testing makeup. And we do have one like absolute favorite category, so it's a like absolute fave product, so a product that is in the fave category, meaning that it's a product that if I will find the time this year to do a sort of ultimate favorite makeup products sort of end of the year ranking or favorites video, then that product is probably going to be there. But let's start going through the makeup products, because there is actually like a few things that I want to discuss in this particular video. So let's start with the sort of the ones products that I don't recommend. So this is the Keeping Your Cool, and this is the Cooling Moisturizer and Primer. So first I'm gonna be showing how this looks inside, and hopefully my camera is gonna focus this time. And so considering that this is also advertised aside from being a primer but also as a moisturizer, but this feels like directly like you would be putting silicone on your skin. It's a very thick consistency and not in a pleasant way. Also, this has a very strong candy-like scent, which is okay in the jar, but something when you put this on your skin, it kind of changes the scent a little bit and almost starts smelling like a very stale candy, so not a very pleasant scent once you get it on your skin. Also, the scent lingers quite a while, so if you are scent sensitive, and especially considering that the scent on your skin isn't that good, not a good time with this particular one. Because these days I don't have an oily skin, I have more of a combo dry skin. I do think that this was the product that kinda, because it has the sort of blur, it has such a strong like blurring element to it, it almost like makes my skin also feel quite dry. So I think for an oily skin person, if you can handle the scent that this has, this could be an okay product, but for me this was just not pleasant. And as I said, there are plenty of like, I have for example Essence had this sort of blurring primer that was in a pink tube, and while that had the blurring effect, it certainly didn't feel like it was clogging everything that was on my skin. This feels that it's gonna clog your every single like pore that you have, but it also is probably gonna like clog your skin from breathing. So it's just this was not a pleasant experience, and I would not recommend. I think in terms of blurring primers we have now more sophisticated formulas, and I definitely think this should not be advertised as a moisturizer, because I don't think there's anything moisturizing even for an oily skin in this one. It's just gonna take like all your oils away basically. So the cooling effect also that this has, it does have a cooling effect, but I do have to say the unpleasant scent is actually something that outlasts the cooling effect. It kind of feels nice initially, but it dissipates quite quickly, unlike the scent, which I would very much wish it would dissipate quicker. So not something that I'm gonna be rebuying, and not even something that I would recommend even if you would have an oilier skin. As I said, I do think there are more sophisticated like pore blurring formulas these days. This just feels like a very old school silicone kind of blurring primer, and not in the good way. Next one is a mascara, and this is actually the mascara I'm wearing. So this is the Wisp Me Away, and this was the mascara that was included in the Louise Easter egg, so I got the pink variation, but I do think that if you got the green one, it had a brown variation, but the pink one had the black one. In terms of wand, I actually did like the wand of this one. It's a very nice wand in terms of the fact that you are able to get it to the root of your lash line. Unfortunately, the formula, it does give quite of an okay lift to it, so if you just need a lifting mascara, this could be pretty like an okay, but unfortunately I have lashes that also need length and volume, and unfortunately this doesn't really give out either of those, even if you would try to layer this one up quite a few times. So not just a, how should I say, impressive mascara. As I said, for a lifting mascara it could work out, but I have tried better mascaras, so I don't think this mascara, even if it would be available for sale individually, I would not get this one. I think you can get better mascaras. So then the last product and this in the sort of no, don't buy category for me. So this is the Take the Tint, and this again is something that was in the sort of pink Easter egg that I got from Louise, and this was one of the sort of peel off lip tints. I'm gonna put in the swatch picture like two, you're gonna see two swatches on the hand, one where it has the peel layer and one that has the sort of like peel layer taken off, so you can see the tint. And I kind of guessed already that I was right. I don't like the part that like you first have to try to layer this very evenly on your skin, which skin on your lips, which is already a bit challenging because it's quite of a gloopy and stiff formula, and then the peeling off procedure, because I was trying to like I was hoping that it would just go as a one like layer and then it would like go like it would sort of dry down as a one layer, but what actually happened was that yeah, you got some of it like some of it to peel as a one single stripe, but then you had these individual pieces of the like top layer that you tried to kind of had to like dig out with your fingers, and then you got some of them on your teeth and it ended up coloring your teeth. And also I did feel that the finish of it was pretty uneven, so I just think that if you are looking for a good lip tint, there are K-Beauty or other kind of lip tints where you don't have this sort of peel off thing that kind of gets messy, and you don't get a even result with that one. But with a traditional, like a lot of more traditional lip tint formulas, you can get a even layer that has the same lasting effect. And if you like this sort of like bitten, lip bitten effect that skin tint, like lip tints kind of give you, there are just easier formulas. So this is again something that I just find it very gimmicky and very messy and very uneven to use. So again, not a formula that I would recommend, and definitely not something I'm gonna be like rebuying. I think after the review I'm just gonna declutter this one, because for me this was just, it was too much hassle and the result wasn't worth it. Next, let's go to the meh category of products. So these are products that I would say that are like they are okay, but still not something that I would be like, I'm not gonna be remembering this like maybe probably after I've used this up. So first one is actually another Louise. So this was the Stay Shining lip oil in the sort of like mystery scent that was in there. I think it was in the Bad Bee that they were like giving as a freebie when you were ordering from their website during previous month. And this is now the first one of these variations that I have in this very sparkly formula. They've been now doing this more sparkly formula in certain sets. You can't yet buy these individually. And I do have to give this one credit. There is like sparkle to this one, so this is definitely like more makeup product than a like lip oil, like traditional like skincare lip oil. Why this goes to the meh category, there's actually nothing like technically wrong in this one. I would have just wished that the sparkle would have maybe showed up on my lips a bit more. So I want a good, very sparkly lip gloss, and this is an individual preference. With this one, it's like a nice sparkle, but it's very subtle actually when you get it on your lips. Also compared to the sort of like lip oil formula, so if you have tried this in the like traditional lip oil formula, it's a bit of a thicker lip oil that actually has a pretty good like staying power. This one, for some reason, the formula is a bit more like, it's not as, it's more thinner and more like liquidy formula, which means that I do have to dip in with this one quite many times in order to get an even layer on my lips. Not a huge issue, I can deal with it, but just as a something like, something to consider as a user experience. The scent, I told that with this one it was a very mandarin orangey like scent, so even though this came in a packaging that had cherry blossoms in it, nothing cherry blossom about the scent, it's a very orangey scent. So I think if you are looking to buy these more like shimmery versions of the lip oil, now that I think they are going to be probably bringing these out more in their range in the future, just be aware that if you're looking for like Fenty Gloss Bomb type of shimmer, or maybe like Kiko's 3D Hydro Gloss kind of shimmer, you're not gonna get that kind of shimmer finish. The shimmer on the lips is much more subtle, but if you like a more like thinner lip oil formula, this could be a good option if you especially don't like the heavy gloopy ones. But yeah, this was okay, I'm gonna be using it, but also not something that I'm probably gonna be rebuying. Then to the sort of loose powder, so this is actually from Essence's this year's spring edit. So this is the Silk Blur Translucent Powder. I'm gonna pop in the like powder, how this looks inside to the somewhere on the screen, because otherwise I'm gonna be having a loose powder all over my desk. So it's an okay loose powder, not the best one, definitely like the Catrice loose powder that they came out with during the fall edit during last year. That I think is actually still one of my favorite like loose powders to this date, because it was such a fine, nice powder. This kind of has the flower bag effect that a lot of cheap powders have. When you open them, you kind of get this poof. And and especially now that I do have a more drier combo oily, not combo oily, dry combo skin, I do think maybe just for my skin type, I don't need this sort of a heavy duty loose powder. But I do think if you have an oily skin, this could actually be maybe a powder to look into. You certainly do get, I think, a decent amount of product. And I think this is supposed to be the, is this supposed to be the translucent shade? Yeah, it says translucent loose powder. However, something that I did notice is that if you do layer this, there's bit pigment to this one, so I don't think it's completely translucent. I do think on some skin tones this might look a bit funny, so just buyer beware. I don't think it's completely translucent, even though the packaging claims it to be. But as I said, if you have an oily skin, you're looking for a drugstore powder to try out, this could work out for you, but it's not the finest or the best powder or even the finest drugstore powder that I have tried. Okay, and then the big category of products, so this is the good category and we had quite a few things here. So how I'm gonna do first, let's go through the POE stuff first and then the sort of like everything else. So I should have maybe expected that I like this because generally P. Louise's cheek palettes have been a hit for me. Well, not all of them, but this one was. So this is the Bake Me blush. This was a clearance sale find that I had. The only complaint I have for this one is that the packaging is unnecessarily thick. I would have wished it would have been in the same size as the pink blush palette that I got in one of their budget boxes, which is basically half of the thickness of this one. This is gonna be, I still haven't figured out how I'm gonna store this one. But I do have to say, the quality, like, if you are just someone starting out makeup collection or you just want a, I know not everyone is a fan of like these big blush palettes, but I do think the blushes, like the blush range is pretty good. These blushes are nice, they are on the pigmented side. I actually do like the fact that we have these more fairer shades because you can actually mix them in and even make these deeper kind of shades work. I do think that if you have a deeper skin tone, you necessarily aren't gonna get that much use from this palette purely because it has only 2 of these very deep shades. I do feel the rest of the shades, especially the mid-tone ones that you can of course use individually, you did have to build those a little bit even on my skin tone to get them to show up. So that's just something you should consider. If you are still able to get this one, as I said, this is a clearance sale product, so I'm pretty sure they're trying to get rid of, trying to get this out from their stock. But overall, I would have to say very on par with P. Louise's like powder blush formula. It's a bit on the pigmented side, but it's still very nice to work with. I like the color range also that this has, and especially I think like considering spring season, I think these are very like spring-esque shades. So fan if you're looking for a decent blush formula and several blushes at a pretty decent price points. I do think these P. Louise blush palettes are maybe a good way to start, especially if you don't have a huge collection yet. Then the lip liner, so I already knew I kind of liked their lip liner formula, so you're gonna see, because I got this in the lip liner set that had their sort of pink tone lip liners. These are the 3 ones that I had in my sort of rotation for testing, but I can now say that because all these were pretty consistent. What were the shades? So this was the High Drive, then there was the Feeling Fine, and then the very fair one was Plot Twist. And I actually do think like this is a pretty good lip liner formula if you are someone that because I don't like too creamy of a lip liner formula because that one is those usually bleed out, especially if you wear them in combination with glosses or they just don't last. This is a very good in-between formula where there's a bit grip to it, but it's also very like smooth to apply. So it does actually last also on your lip during the daytime, or if you like wearing glosses over lip liners, these really shouldn't bleed out. So I do think especially if you are looking for lip liners at a decent prices, P. Louise would be again a good place, and they have a pretty good range from reds to browns to pinks. As I said, I'm gonna be putting the swatch images of all the like pink lip liners, so if you are still able to get again, because this was their sort of clearance sale product, if you are still able to get the lip liner sets and especially the pink one, you can now then see like the whole range, how those look swatched out. But I would say that if you're, as I said, looking for good lip liners, P. Louise might have something to offer for you. Then glosses, so this is the pink gloss from Fenty's Valentine's Day collection. There was a whole thing. I did not want this particular shade, but the store made a mistake when they backed my online order. I actually wanted the baby pink shade, but I got the hot pink variation. This was a limited edition collection, so I'm a bit unsure can you actually get this anymore. But I have to say, even though I was not like super happy of getting the wrong gloss shade, this is actually shows up if you're looking for a good punch pigmented gloss, and if they, for example, bring this back at some point as a permanent shade, get this one. Like, this really shows this pink on your lips, and if you put a lip liner, it even amplifies the color more. This is also one of the ones that also look very sparkly on the lips. With some Fenty lip luminizers, there's been the issue that they kind of look sparkly in the tube, but then they don't look that sparkly on your lips. This one definitely, the shimmers will show up. So for those of you who are a fan of hot pink lip glosses, this is a recommendation. And I do think this is different enough because I do have the holiday shade from, the individual holiday shade from, I think it's called the Grape Splash. This is truly different from that one because that one actually has a very strong blue shimmer flip to it. This is actually like, there's like just pink, maybe a bit of gold and sparkles to this one. But those are like, if you're someone who owns both of the shades, this is genuinely a different shade. And this is also, I think, much more like pigmented compared to the like Grape Splash shade. So there's a bit of comparison since I do actually own both of them. And then something from Essence. So this is actually again from Essence's, again, Spring Edit. So this is the Silky Blur Hydrating Longwear Concealer. Okay, so this is the concealer that I'm currently wearing. Is it very like hydrating? So first of all, why this is in the a good category is that, yeah, I think if you are looking for a long coverage concealer that doesn't have this like long coverage, like full coverage kind of concealer that wears quite long and doesn't emphasize at least too much, I think, texture under eyes, I do think this would be actually a good choice from the drugstore. However, do I feel that this is super hydrating? That is debatable. I think for me this is just on the limit of being that if it would look even a bit more drier on my skin, then I would say that as someone who suffers from a drier skin, I would not recommend this. But it's just, I think, has enough like hydration in the formula that it's not too bad. Still wouldn't say this is my favorite. I do think that this, at the end of the day, sometimes tends to look a bit on the heavier side. It's just how the formula seems to behave. But if you are someone who needs a more like Longwear matte kind of finish concealer, but you don't like the concealers that are very heavy and thick in terms of consistency, this is actually better because the consistency of this one is pretty thin. So I do think it also makes this nicer to work with. But if you are, I think if you are especially someone who has like an oily skin, but you don't want a thick gloopy formula and you want something that still covers you, this is a pretty good formula. I think if you have a super dry skin on the other hand, then I would not recommend this one. I don't think the hydrating part of this one, especially with very dry skins, I don't think it works out, because even as I said, for me who has a combo dry skin, it's a bit on the edge that is it hydrating enough. But a very decent find in drugstore if you're looking for something that covers for you and has a thinner formulation to it. Then I would say, then I have some Catrice products from their seasonal edit also. So this is the Skin Tint Moisturizer in 020N. So this was the fairest shade available. This is the foundation product that I'm currently wearing today, so you can now make your judgment. I have had this already, like I put my makeup on around noon and it's already like over 5 p.m. at least where I'm living. So you can now make your conclusion how well this has lasted. I have powdered it with the Essence powder, so this has been helping with the longevity a little bit. And you can see that I have almost like used this one up, there's not that much left to it. Now, having almost used this one up, how would I say this? I'm not as in love with this as I was, for example, with the purple Misha BB cream that I tried in the beginning of the year. This doesn't have the effect that that had, which basically was that seemed to take like years away from my face. Then we know that the issue with the Misha with me was that the fairest shade, it has a pretty strong grey cast to it, which didn't look that flattering. In terms of shade match, this is a bit better. It's a bit on the pale side, but for me it works out actually a bit better. But I don't think this is as flattering still on my skin. It's a very hydrating, nice skin tint, but I do think that it's almost so hydrating that in some days it kind of almost like, because there's so much emolliency to the formula, it kind of also maybe almost like emphasized some of the textures. Also, there was a bit of a curve to how I got this to to work in terms of application. I first did what I thought would be nice was that just to apply this with my fingers. It was a bit difficult with fingers. There was something with the finger application that it kind of tended to slip around. It was hard to get it to stay in one place. With a sponge, I would definitely not apply this with the sponge because the sponge will take away most of the pigment. With a dense makeup brush, that was so far for me the best way to apply this. But with a makeup brush, I had to be like, do a little bit finicky because sometimes if you ended up layering a bit too much, then again, it didn't look nice. So I do think for a sort of very like casual days, or if you can kind of get this to work with your application technique, this could be a decent, but I do have to say I've also tried like maybe better this sort of skin tint kind of products, but if Catrice is easily accessible to you, and I do think maybe, I'm a bit unsure that would actually dry your skin, because drier, if you have even, because even I have texture on my skin, and I'm not certain that if you have a very dry skin, that usually people also then tend to have even more texture in them. So yeah, I think it's a nice skin tint, but not the best skin tint that I've tried. And as I said, at least for me, like applying this with one, because I do know a lot of people want to, especially these skin tints are something that they would rather apply with their fingers because they want something very quick and easy. At least for me, the finger application, it kind of didn't work out. So for me, the best result where you kind of preserve the pigment of this one, but you still were able to get it to stick to your skin, I do think the makeup brush was the best way. And in terms of longevity, I did have, as I said, I've been using powder with this one because I tried one day using this without powder and it didn't last that well. So if you have issues with any kind of longevity issues with your foundation, I would recommend putting like a powder over this one, which can then take away with the glow, so you kind of have to like figure out what's good for your skin. But still, I would say a pretty good skin tint. Then something else, so Catrice redid their sort of lipstick, so this is their Blur Real Matte Lipsticks. I did like the previous ones, and I think this is a good formula, but I think I might have liked the previous formula better. Which shade did I have? So mine is in the Muted Romance shade So 040. It's I think the previous formula, it was a bit creamier. Yeah, I think that is why I liked it. So the previous matte bullet lipstick formula they had, it was bit on the creamier side, meaning it was a bit easier to apply. This is also like quite okay to apply, but it's not as creamy, and I also felt that you did have to build it up. I do think in terms of like how drying this is, this does tend to get a bit more drying a bit more quickly than the sort of previous bullet matte lipstick formula they had, again because this is not as creamy as the previous one. I think however that if you thought that the previous variation of their bullet matte lipstick, that if that was too creamy for you, you wanted something that has a bit more grip, then you might actually like this new formula a bit better. But I do think it's still a very good formula because this definitely has quite a good longevity, so you don't have to be reapplying this constantly. And I do still think that even if the formula is not similar than the previous one, I do still think for drugstore it's a pretty good formula. So this is like a maybe a bit of a preference thing. Do you want your bullet lipstick formulas to have a bit more grip, meaning that they are also probably going to be a bit more long lasting, or do you want that like very easy glide, but then you do kind of the longevity of lipstick will suffer. So it's kind of like which one you prefer. But I do say, as I said, for drugstore, this is pretty good formula if you're into this kind of lipstick format. Then I think the most like positively surprising thing in the good category. So I actually ended up buying one of these individual shadows. So this is the Prismatic Shift eyeshadow, and they came out with 3 of these, and these are supposed to be their variation of duochrome on multichrome shadows. And with this one there are 2 demo looks where I took mattes from other eyeshadow palettes and then I put this one on top so you can kind of see the variety, and then I'm gonna put there's gonna be a swatch in that image. And I do have to say I was like pleasantly surprised because my expectation for this one was not high. So these are go a bit over €5, and for a bit over €5 you kind of go that, okay, but how much of a multichrome shift do you expect for that kind of price? I do have to say, like with this one, you do get like, so you do actually get like 3 distinct shades depending how you layer this and what kind of lighting conditions you have. So this is a green to pink to white multichrome. Is the shift the strongest of multichrome shifts that I have ever seen? No, but I do think that for a lot of people this would be like enough. And what I do especially appreciate with this one is that It's a very smooth and nice formula. You do have to build it maybe a bit more. It's not as one and go as maybe some of the other more expensive multi-chrome formulas are. But with 2 layers of this one, it's a very like, the multi-chrome is there. And even though it is a very like, even if you would layer it, I don't feel that this still creased. It's what I especially do appreciate with this one is that how smooth this is. So I actually think a lot of people would enjoy this one. So I think if you're looking for multi-chromes in European drugstores, the shade range, as I said, it's a bit limited. There's like only 3 variations, but maybe this could be a good way of trying out multi-chromes, especially if you don't want to like order a big palette that costs around 80 or 70 euros. Like, as I said, or a bit over 5 euros, this was actually, this surprised me quite positively, and I think this would be like something that I would actually like travel with, because with this one the formula doesn't feel as fragile as some of other like multi-chrome formulas that I have in my collection, and because it's so inexpensive, I would not be afraid of this one breaking down, because I could just then go and rebuy it. So yeah, actually a pretty like good surprise, and I think from in terms of like which like product surprised me positively the most from all of the products that I tried during last month, I think this one was the like big surprise from the bunch. Okay, and then we did have one fave. So the one fave was actually from Catrice's Seasonal Edit, and this is the Soft Blur Powder Blush. Now, Catrice does actually do their cheap products quite well. I have the bronzer contour duo they did last year, that was like one of my favorites. Also some of their liquid cheap products have been pretty good, and now they redid their powder blushes. And I do have to say, if you're looking for a good powder blush, that is actually because with all drugstore priced blushes or more mid-range priced blushes, for example the Louise ones, you kind of get a lot of very pigmented formulas, but I do know that's not what everyone looks for, and also some of them can be a bit trickier to work with if you're not careful. With this one, I would say that this is actually a very nice formula in the way that it's more buildable formula, but it's a very still like, it feels like a very smooth and silky formula. So even if it's a more matte blush, I also feel that this was one of those formulas that doesn't emphasize textures on your skin. So actually, even if you would have a bit drier skin, I think you might be able to enjoy this one. And also, like I said, the buildability is the advantage of this one. So if you've been super afraid of especially drugstore blushes because you're afraid you're gonna get something very pigmented and hard to work with, look for the blushes in this line, because I do feel that this was a very, for a drugstore, this was in a very, what I would say, elevated formula. Still, I would say that it does this compared to some of the like very nice high-end blushes, like for example, a good comparable from high-end ones, individual blushes would be Narcis's individual blushes that are in the rectangular packaging. This is maybe not there, but it gets, I think, quite close, especially again considering how much this cost. The shade range of this one, like what kind of shades you get, it was pretty like average. You're not gonna get anything like super like wowing or special in terms of like blush shades, but I do also think that maybe for the person who's shopping these on drugstore, you just need like, you're looking for a good 1 or 2 basic blush shades. So I do think actually for the customer that these are probably targeted to and who are buying these, I think the shade range that it has currently is probably enough. But yeah, if you are able to find a shade in this one that appeals to you and you're looking for a very good like powder blush formula from the drugstore, especially European drugstore, like try one of these out, because I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. And if you have had bad experiences with matte blushes previously, this might be a matte blush that might actually change your mind, because at least I was very like, I kind of went to this one thinking that okay, I'm gonna try it, but I wasn't expecting that much of it, and then actually how much I ended up liking this one, like I was pretty surprised. Those were all the products that I had to review for the month of April. Comment down what have been some of your makeup favorites in the recent month. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope you see you in the video. Bye bye!